Hey everyone, it's Fortnite Guides YT here. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to guide you all on getting the most consistent performance from your PC for Fortnite or any other game you might play. Most performance guides normally focus on getting as much FPS as possible, but we're going to focus on consistent gameplay experience, input lag, and graphics fidelity for gaming performance that is equivalent to high FPS while giving you consistently lower input lag, consistent frame times, and better graphics fidelity. This guide can be used for just about any game, so feel free to try them out in other games you're playing. Alright guys, so first things first, you're going to want to make sure that your monitor is at its highest refresh rate. Native is the setting that it defaults to, and as you can see here, that's 60 Hz. I can't choose any higher, so make sure to go to your settings and check that you're at your highest refresh rate for your monitor. This is very important for low input lag and smooth gaming. So I'm going to apply. Good. Now step 2. Check and see if your monitor can do FreeSync or G-Sync. This is very important for low input lag and consistent frame times. So here's what I want you to do. Enable G-Sync, enable full screen mode, choose the monitor that you play your games on if you have more than one, and enable settings for selected display model if it's not G-Sync compatible. You're basically forcing G-Sync or FreeSync capabilities on a monitor that can do it. Alright, so now the next step. Let's get to the graphics settings. There are pretty much two graphics settings that you can choose for good gameplay. It's either let the 3D application decide. That's very good if you're playing well optimized, well designed games, or use advanced 3D image settings. I prefer to use advanced 3D image settings to have more control over the performance of my games, so that's typically what I use. Now let me take you guys there and let you see my default settings. So here are my default settings. Image sharpening is off, ambient occlusion is off, anisotropic filtering is application control, anti-aliasing FXA is off, anti-aliasing gamma correction off, anti-aliasing mode application control, this is defaulted to application control, transparency off, GPUs all, DSR scaling factors all off, low latency mode off, max frame rate off, monitor technology G-Sync compatible, MFA off, open GL rendering auto select, power management mode optimum power, preferred refresh rate, application control, shader cache on, texture filtering, sample optimization on, LOD bias on, quality, high performance, trilinear optimization on, threaded optimization auto, triple buffering off, and vertical sync use through the application setting. Virtual reality pre-rendered frames is 1. Now these are my default settings. I pretty much didn't change anything. I think the default settings is gamma correction is also on, and texture filtering quality is on quality. Now for you to change these sample optimizations and LOD bias to on and allow, you don't have to change them manually. Simply go to texture filtering quality setting and set it to high performance. That's pretty much all you have to do. There have been tests run that show that high performance doesn't really look any different from quality, but it does give you up to 3 to 15 frames in some games. Let me explain a few other settings just in case something happens in your game that you don't like. Anisotropic sample optimization. This will add shimmering on objects. So if you're playing a game and certain graphics are shimmering, you can turn this off. And then also LOD bias. This can add aliasing on objects that are moving. It could pretty much add jagged edges. One place you could see this is in Fortnite, where if you're looking at a stair or a bill from a certain angle, it'll look like it'll have like a weird graphic effect on it. That's because this is on. But I keep it on. It doesn't really bother me like that. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We're going to customize Fortnite specific settings. So, I know you guys have your anti-aliasing off typically to have the best performance. I do as well. The only difference is I have FXAA on my Fortnite settings in my NVIDIA control panel. What this does is it pretty much gets rid of all those jagged edges. It's not blurry like Fortnite's anti-aliasing on low settings, but it gets rid of those jagged edges without any performance hit. So I highly recommend you to turn this to on and to turn your anti-aliasing to off in Fortnite. The only way I'd say to keep this off is if you use Epic Anti-Aliasing settings. But if you don't, turn them off and turn this on. And next thing, we're gonna have vertical sync to on. This is especially important if you have a G-Sync or FreeSync monitor, because what you're doing is you're syncing the frames to your monitor's refresh rate. This gives you input lag that is very similar to unlimited FPS, but at the benefit that your frame times are consistent. Okay, so that's the NVIDIA control panel settings. So next step, you need to modify your game user settings, INI. Now, it's going to be two different sets of settings here, guys. If you're on a G-Sync monitor, I want you to set your frame rate limit to 3 frames below your monitor's refresh rate. So I'm on 144 Hertz. I have mine set to 141. If you have 165, set it to 162, 120, 117, 75, 72, 240, 237. The reason you do this is because we have VSync on, so it's syncing the game frames to our monitor. But by having a frame rate limit below the monitor's refresh rate, what that does is it has allowed the graphic card to give you the freshest frame. What this does is allow you to have the lowest input lag that you could possibly realistically have on your monitor without any screen tearing. Now guys, if you have a VSync monitor without G-Sync, so you don't have G-Sync or FreeSync, you're going to do something a little different. You're going to lower the frame rate limit by a tiny amount. So if you have a 60 Hertz monitor, lower it to 59.9. 120 Hertz, lower it to 119.9. You just want to do a little frame rate limit, and this essentially allows the graphics card to do the same thing without G-Sync. You're getting the freshest frame. There will be slight tearing in your gameplay, but because the frame rate difference is so small, you won't notice it. This will give you the best input lag, consistent frame times, and smooth gameplay. Now let me show you guys my Fortnite settings. So nothing special. This frame rate limit here is false because we modified it in our INI file. I have view distance to near, everything pretty much to off, textures to epic. You want to have your textures high to make sure your graphics card works. Fortnite is a very CPU intensive game, so anything to make your graphics card more involved in the rendering will help to keep your gameplay consistent. And then finally, DirectX on 12 to utilize those cores better than DirectX 11. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Notice when you look at my character, there are pretty much no edges there. It's much better than Anti-Aliasing low. So yeah, I recommend you guys try it. Happy gaming, guys.